Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is David from Daveden Web Dev, and on this channel I like to talk about all things WordPress, especially about accessibility and dynamic data. And over the weekend, no, over the week, there was the release of the new update for Builderius, which is Builderius version 1.1.6 for the free version and 1.0.6 for the pro version, and we'll be taking a look at it in today's video. So if you can see me well, you can hear me properly, let me know in the comments so that I know everything is good and I'm not just speaking to myself. But while we're there, I'll just try and pull up the website. So yeah, I don't know how many people noticed it, that the Builderius team, they now have a new website. So for their regular website and their documentation website, everything has been revamped. I think they're still making some slight adjustments to the documentation because some parts are still saying coming soon, but for the most part, you can get all the information you need from the website, so that is good. Let's just go ahead and even take a look at the website. So I'll just switch up. So I'll just switch the screen. Yeah. Okay, so this is the new website. You can go to builderius.io. I'll leave a link to it in the comments and in the description in case you want to check it out. So let me just go ahead and pull it up. So that's builderius.io. My systems have been doing something. I don't know what happened. It seems the power it's not getting to my screens, so the screens keep flashing. I'm not sure why. But yeah, so the new website now is quite nice. You can see it's all fancy. So many things have been added. I think I'll just turn off my other screens because they're basically affecting my main screen. So yeah, how has everybody's week been? What have you been up to? And have you been looking at the new updates? What do you think about the update to Builderius? Is it something that you think is a good welcome update, or you think they could have done something better? Let me know in the comments. But yeah, so we have build visually, code safely, and stage and deploy confidently. And then we have some nice stacking for the website and some nice fancy like icons. So that's cool. Then we have lots of testimonials from different people, including Lex. We have one from Marty Eastwood, Toby Salami, and so many other ones. And it has lots of features. So we have the GraphQL powered dynamic data. We have efficient and secure development workflows and so many other things. So yeah, looking nice. And now they've given you easier access to other things like the documentation and your accounts. So if you want to go to your accounts, you just go to product and then user account, and you ask you to log in. I think they say they're also going to update the accounts website. Right now it's still the old version of Builderius that they used to create the accounts page. But yeah, that's the way you get to your accounts. Then if you want to go to the documentation, you get to support and you can see documentation. Click on that and to take you to the new documentation website. I think everybody is using this new Docusaurus. I believe that's the name. That's what everybody has been using for their documentation. I think Metabox uses it, Etch uses it, Builderius, and so many other different plugins because it's quite easy. And the beauty of it is that because they're all using the same platform, it now makes it easy for anybody who is trying to go through a documentation to quickly understand, because all of them look the same basically. So you can quickly change between light mode and dark mode, or you put it into the dual like user preference. Then you have the search, so you can easily search through the documentation. The main part of the documentation that I mostly check out is the ones that have to do with dynamic data and expression language. So if I go under expression language and under introduction, you can get to see the entire explanation of the expression language, because this is the what powers the dynamic data in Builderius. So you can see what it means and how to use it. And yeah, it's really nice. I like the way they did the documentation. Everything is quite nice and easy to see. Then with this is for the documentation. Oh, hi Jimmy. Thank you for joining in. Hi Elstec. Oh yeah, I know, I understand Elstec. Everybody is quite busy. Even I am supposed to be watching. I actually missed it out that I forgot that my club, Manchester City, are playing right now. So they're actually playing and they're winning. So that's good for me. But yeah, I totally understand. So hi everybody. Thank you for joining in. So yeah, this is the documentation site. Everybody is using it now. I think it's quite fast. That's why many people are using this Docusaurus or whatever it's called. But yeah, this is documentation. You can go through it if you want. And yeah. Oh, sorry, I didn't switch my screen. So yeah, this is the documentation site. You can see the site and you can always go back to the main site easily. So they have made the website like easy to navigate. Everything is like well connected. So you can view your user account if you want to get your login details. Jimmy, I decided to go green today. Thank you. uh, yeah. So yeah, that's it for the documentation side of things. Then let's just explore the new features that have been added. I think I can get to the. I don't know if they put. Let's see if I can find it. Did they put the? Let's see the product and roadmap and change log. Okay, yeah. So this is the change log. The new things they've added is you can use dynamic HTML tags in components. You now have flexible component properties in the UI. You have more component property types and component deletion workflow, so that you can add component removal system with usage deletion, allow deletion of unused components with warnings, preventing deletion of components in use with clear feedback. Okay, so that's good. Hello, Nicholas. Thank you for joining in. Oh, wow, from France. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so then they have also included the short code element. So those are the new things that have been added. We'll like quickly check it out and see what we added. Then I think, okay, what's in queue now is improved component CSS scoping. I think right now you're either adding CSS to the global CSS or to a template level CSS. I think the component level CSS is still in the works. So that's what they're trying to do. Improved component CSS scoping. And then there are other features added. So yeah, those are the features. So let's go ahead and what's this? Okay, yeah. So those are the features. Now we'll just go ahead and try it out. So let's see. This is a Builderius website. If you go under plugins, you can see there's the new updates, which are now 1.1.6 beta and 1.0.6 beta. That's for the free and the pro. So let's go to a page. And then I'll just maybe create a new page. And I'll call it beta testing. I always forget to deactivate the starter sites from my theme. So deactivate that. So this will be called beta test. Okay. Publish. and edit with Builderius. Okay, so here we have our blank page for Builderius, and we can now start adding our content. So by default, Builderius comes with two components. The first one is the site header and the site footer. Those are components, and they are both in the free version and the pro version. If you want to create your own component, then you need to use the pro version. The free version does not allow you to create your own components, because if they give everything in the free version, then there will be no point having a pro version. So they give you the basics to create a regular website in the free version, but then if you want to go further and maybe get extra features, then you need to use the pro version. So yeah, so now this is the component in the free version. So let's even just use that as a test. So if you want to edit a component, you can just right click and click on edit component. That's one way. The other way is, if you have the component highlighted, if you go into the properties panel, you can now see where they write edit component. So there are two portions there. There are two sections. There is the primary section, which has edit component, and the properties section, which contains all of the properties you've attached to that component. Okay, so let's go ahead and edit component, and it will open it in a new tab, but within the same page. So you're not reloading the page, it's just opening it in a new tab within the same page. And you can always switch between the component and the primary page you're working with just by clicking on the one you want. So if I click on the primary page, it switches back to the regular page and loads it asynchronously, so it doesn't need to reload the page. Then I can go back to my component and keep editing the component. So this is the component. So it's just the header. It has a skip link and then some other parts of the header, the site logo and other things. Now, if you want to create your own component, let's go ahead and close this component. To create your own component, you can do it in one of two ways. You can finish building out the entire structure first and then just convert that to a component. So what do I mean? You can start by maybe creating a card. So I'll click on maybe a div, and within that div, I'll add maybe 2 extra divs. The first div will be like my content, which will have a heading, a paragraph, and maybe a link. The second div will have just an image. Can I see well? Okay, an image. Okay, so I can now rename them so everybody understands what it is. So the first div will be my card. Then directly inside the card, we have 2 divs. The first of the 2 divs is the content, which contains all of our text content, and then the second div is for our media. So it contains any kind of media we have, like images or videos or anything. Then we can have the heading, which I can name as title if I want. So that'll be title, then description, and then the CTA. So description and a CTA. Okay. So this is a basic card structure. So let's go ahead and just populate it with some content. I hope there's content in this page. Let's see. Okay, so we have this image, insert, and I'll just put some random content first. So the heading, I'll say this is the echoes of tomorrow. Then the description is some random book description. Finally, we have the CTA, maybe buy now. and then to have some other area label or something that basically describes the link in a better way. So that's the card. Let's go ahead and just finish it up. Let me add some CSS. Let's see, what kind of style do we need? I'll go under the style tab. I'll just style everything on, okay, this is going to be a component. Let me add classes to them. So the first one, I'll just give it a class name of maybe something like first card beta. Then the one thing I would like them to add is a way to have that auto bemming, because I think a lot of tools are now bringing it up. So we have auto bemming in ACSS, in core framework, in advanced thema, and even in GreenShift they also have this auto bemming. So I wish Builderius can have that way to auto bem as well to make life faster. So card beta, let's say this will be the content, then the title, then I don't need that to have any class. Maybe this will have a class. Then the media, and finally we can add to the image if you want. So yeah, so this is just a basic structure. Now let's go ahead and just add a, okay, I think I already added some styles to the element. Okay, I guess I had styled it before, those class names before. I didn't even realize it because it automatically styled the card. So let's just assume that the card has been styled. So now we have our basic component. If you want to now make it a component, all you have to do is you go to the start of the element, so that's the card, right click, and then say create component. Then you give it a name, so I can call this card beta. Save and open. What happened? Component with, oh, okay, yeah, the name is already, okay, that's why I already created a card component. I didn't realize it. Yeah, that's it, card beta. So let's name it something else, maybe card beta 2. And it is now a component. So we have our component, and we can go ahead and continue styling the component however we want. So it's easy. Hi, the Builderius team are in the chat. So if you want to have any, if you have any questions, just ask in the comments and they will respond. So yeah. Let's continue. So we have our basic component, which is our card beta. Now let's go ahead and create properties for that component. So to create properties for the component, we're already editing the component. On the left-hand side, if you're on a left to right screen, the left-hand side, you'd see that we can now add new properties. So that's one way to add properties. You can go ahead and first create all of your properties first, and then attach them to each individual points that you need. So let's start with that. So let's say the first one is a title. And for a title, basically a title is usually just a single line of text. So if you now click on that new property, this is the new interface you see now, that we now have a drop down. Previously, it will just create a single line text property, but now you have an option for either a text, a URL, image, true or false, or a select field. For this case, we want a text, and that will just be the title. Then you can put some default value like maybe post title. You can even put dynamic data here so that it will always pull in maybe the title of your loop item or the title of your post or something. So you can use dynamic data here. You can use static data as your default value and so on. Then maybe the second property will be for the heading level, because now we know that we want the title to be a text, but we don't know what heading level. Do we want it to be H2 and H3, H4, or what? So we can now use a select field for that. So I'll put select, and the property name will be called heading level. heading level. Okay, and then you can now add your new options. So the first option will be maybe an H2, and the value will just be H2. Then maybe an H3, value H3, and then finally maybe an H4, value H4. Okay, and then maybe I'll say the default should be the H3, so I can put the default as H3, and that's it. So now we have our second property. Then we can add another property for maybe the image, and that will just be called maybe the media. You can put a default as well, so let's just put a default image. And you can also add another property, maybe a text property that will be for the image alt text. So I can say media alt text, or media description, anyhow you want to call it. And finally, maybe the CTA, the CTA. So another property, and that will be a URL field, and that will be for the CTA link. And yeah, so we have created all of our properties. Now we can start attaching those properties to the component. So for the first part of the component is going to be for the image. Now you see that we have this green icon that we can attach properties to. So I can now attach the image URL to the image field. So click the plus icon, and then I have the names. So, and like I said before, you can either choose from the ones you've already created, or right here while you are creating the element, you can just click on the create new, and you'll be able to create a new property. So you don't have to do everything first before attaching the property. You can attach the property in this at the instant when you are creating your element. Okay, so the first one, like I said, is the media, and then the alt text for the media. Okay, so we have that for the image. Then for the title, we just click on the plus icon, and I can put the title. Then we can have for the description as well. Did I add any one for description? Oh, I forgot about that. So I can now create a new one, and this will be called the text. Should be a text field. Maybe that's another new one they should add, maybe like a text area field or something. So that will be description. Oh yeah, I forgot, we don't have a rich text, so text area field might not be necessary. But yeah, okay, description, and we say this is the placeholder excerpt. Okay, so that now we have created a property. You can go back and attach that property to the description. And now we have our description. And finally, the CTA, we can add the link to the CTA. And we are done. We have our components created. And I don't know if you noticed, one thing that I like about Builderius compared to other page builders currently is the fact that if you notice, when I was creating for the post title, I was able to add extra text even after the component name, because Builderius exposes the props for you so that you can add anything you want before, after. You can even modify the props so that everything is modified well. So you can add like a function, you can add text before it, you can add text after it, and do other things. Unlike other page builders, I think right now with Bricks and other page builders, when you like attach a component property to it, it will just take over the entire field. So you can't actually like modify it, like add any. Let me show what I mean. I can say like this is dash title, something like that, and it will always add this dash title to the title field. So let's go ahead and test it out. I'll save, and we can now exit since we've created a component. So now we have our component. We can now have multiple components. So let me add a list first. A list. Okay, let me add a section. And then within the section, I'll add the list. And then within the list item, I'll add my card. Yeah. Okay, so remove. Okay, so now I can have multiple list items. So let's duplicate about 3 of them. So you see now we have the card, and each of those cards, if I put a title, let's say random title, you see that it has that text that I put in plus the static text that I added extra as something after. So everything just works. Yeah. So you can also, like they mentioned in the chat, you can, with expressions, you can use props in conditional logic and say if some condition, render this prop, if another condition, render another prop. So Builderius makes it like more powerful in terms of properties because you can use them in any kind of expression, any kind of, like, you can put conditional logic. So like a section should render if maybe there is some content in it, you can render that section. If the content, you can even go as far as saying if the first 5 letters of the title is David, then render this section. If the first 5 letters of the section of the title is not David, then render something else. So you can do some really powerful things with the Builderius components, and it just makes life easier. I think we'll try out something like that now and see if it works. So let's see something we can try. So now we have our components. Let me just go ahead and add some style to the list. So I'll just go to my list and just put some local style. And something like that. Okay. Then so we have, I'm just doing some basic styling now. So we have our cards. Let's go ahead and get rid of this list item that is popping up at the top. And yep. So this is our basic structure. So now for each of the cards, you can give them the content you want. You can add an image if you have an image. So let's just put a random image for the first one, a random image for the second one, and a random image for the third one. Okay, and let's say the other one is second title. Publish. Let's preview. You can see everything is styled any the way we want. So now let's say we come back months in the future and we're like, oh, why did I put dash title on all of them? I don't need that dash title. Let me go ahead and get rid of it. So you can just go to any of the instances of the component. You can go ahead and edit the component, and you can now get rid of that dash title, and we can save, then exit. And now you see the dash title is also gone. Yeah. Yeah, so that is the okay. Yeah, that's another point that he said, I noticed you have placed the cards in the li element. Yeah, which is how I like to design my cards. I like to have the ul li and then the card, so that the card can do whatever it likes. I typically don't like the card being an li, so yeah, because I typically like ul li and then my card should be a div or an article or whatever it should be. Just like that's how I prefer to work. But yeah, like he meant, like is mentioned in the chart, you can also put the props like I also did with the props, and I made the prop to say an H2, H3. I've not attached that. Let's attach it now. So I can go back to my component and edit the component. And right now, you see with the title, I have not attached anything to the HTML. So right now it is always going to be an H2, but I can actually attach a prop to the HTML tag. So attach a prop, and I'm gonna make that prop to be the heading level. And now, if I save it and I go and exit, we can now have for each of the cards, I can define them with a different heading level. So for the first one, I can say that is an H4, and the other ones will be like H2, H3. So let's see if that works. So I'll save and preview on the front end. Let's see, inspect. And you can see the first one is an H4. If I go to the second title, that is an H3. The third title is an H3 because the default is H3, but you can choose either H2, H3, or H4. So yeah, the same thing with the card. That's like it was mentioned with the card itself. Right now is always going to be a div, but I can also add another prop to the card wrapper. I can say the card wrapper, instead of it always being a div, I can add another component, another prop, and say that will be the, it should be another select. No, yeah, let me use a select field will be better because so that you can restrict it to what can be changed. I can put a select field, and I'll say this will be the wrapper tag, and that will be like either a div or a div, or I can add another prop. Oh, there's something off here. I can't. I think there's the scroll bar is missing. There should be some kind of scroll bar. The sidebars don't have any scroll bar, so I can't. Once the props are too long, I can't scroll. So the second one will be an article. So article. Let's zoom back in. Yeah, the scroll bars are missing. Okay, so that's that. Let me now save and attach that prop to my card. And now I can say the wrapper tag is the prop that I created. Hi, Max. Thanks for joining in. So now we have our props set up. Let's go ahead and exit the prop. And okay, I didn't set the default, so that's why everything is, I should have set the default to the card. Let's go back to the card and edit the component. I forgot to set a default for the prop. That's why it's broken. Let me, where is it? Edit the properties and the wrapper tag. The default, let me zoom out again. So the default should be a div. So now it's showing, yeah, the default is now a div. So that's something I should always remember to add a default, especially for your select field. There should always be a default in case, because if there's no default, that means it will be blank and there is no blank HTML tag. A blank HTML tag does not exist, so it breaks the entire page. So I can exit now and exit. So now we have our cards. I can now define that, okay, the first card, I want it to be an article. If I save it and we go ahead and preview on the front end, refresh. Now if I right click and inspect, you see that the first card is now an article with a class of card beta. The second card is a simple div with a class of card beta, and so on. So yeah, so that means this is how the props work flawlessly. And like they mentioned, you can use it within your conditional logic. So even within the text itself, for example, I can go back to my card. I haven't tried it out, so I'm just guessing right now. Edit the component, and this time I can say, okay, if, let me see, what do I say now? If the card title is post title, then show yes, otherwise show no. Let's see if that works. Okay, so yes, save. So I've just added that if I put the card title as post title, then it should show yes, otherwise show no. So let me just do it twice so that it's easy to verify. With card title again. Okay, yeah. Save and exit. So now you can see, okay, because it's random title, it said no. Second title, it said no. But the moment it says it shows post title, it shows yes. So you can use conditional logic with the props. So if I change the prop to, for example, the second title to post title, it will now convert back to yes because it's now post title. But if it's something else, it will say no. Okay, so the syntax I'm using is, they call it expression language. It's almost like JavaScript, basically like JavaScript. So I'm using those ternary notations, but it's basically expression language. So I use the expression example. I think it's called, is it there? Supposed to be something about Boolean functions, I think. I can't remember it, but it basically is among the built-in functions within Builderius expression language. So you can do any kind of conditional logic. So all I just did was add, with like ternary notation, normally you have your condition, then you have a question mark, and then you have what should be the output when it is yes, and what should be the output when it is no. So that's all I just did with the props. So I go ahead and edit another component. So you can use it in two places. You can either do it directly within the prop there. So within this property, you can add your functions and your anything that you do with the expression language, or you can go to your conditional logic itself, add a new property, and then choose dynamic data. So the conditional logic is this icon that looks like what do you call it? A decision tree. So it has a Y, upside down Y. That's where you now choose dynamic data, and within dynamic data, that's where you add your prop. So you can say, let's say the title is equal to oh, okay. Oh yeah, Max. I forgot you normally use, is it Mac Whisper, or which of the tools do you normally use to detect your text? So you have the prop is equal to, let's say, post title, then show that content, otherwise hide the content. So that's what I'm saying right now. So let's try it if it's working. Let me not do it on this. Let me do it on a random field. Oh no, I can do it directly on this field. Let's save. And okay, so let's see now. Let's exit. As you can see now, the field is completely hidden, and that's because I've said that unless it is called post title, then show the field. If it is not post title, if it's something else, hide the field. So you see, that's why it's hiding the field. If I come back to this one and I say post title, the field will show up. If I say any other thing, the field will get hidden. So you can put conditional logic either directly in your properties or using the conditional logic at the top left hand corner of your screen, which is on the sidebar. So there are so many different ways you can use the props, which is what makes the Builderius amazing. The reason why I like Builderius is that Builderius, in terms of dynamic data, I think Builderius is the only build that I've seen that really it works with dynamic data quite well. Like it's was built for dynamic data, basically. Other builders are also very good with dynamic data, like Bricks. Bricks is quite good with dynamic data, but the way Builderius like approach dynamic data, they make it so easy to use. So you can use their built-in functions. You don't really need to even know about PHP that much because you can use their built-in functions, and they try to give you some right-click options, which let me see if it works. If you go to any of those properties, let's see, my screen has interesting. Okay, yeah, my mouse just disappeared onto my other screen and I couldn't bring it back up. I don't know why. So yeah, so even within, so the dynamic, you can use dynamic data, you can use component properties, you can mix and match everything together to create some more powerful dynamic data. And let's say I can also, since I already have my card here, so let's say I'm using a collection element now. So let me first go ahead and edit my component, make it back into a regular component. So I will remove all of this random conditional logic and just put it back to the regular component title, delete the condition, and save. So now everything is back to normal, I think. So now I can come and add a collection element. So under my container, let's add a collection. Within the collection, I will add an li. Then I'll make the collection element itself a UL. This is if your structure requires a UL li structure. So I'm just doing it because that's what I'm used to. Then I can now go ahead and put in my component. So let's go ahead and add a new component from the component library, because once you've created a component on the element inserter, you now see the component in the top section. So all of the components I've created, the two default ones are the site header and site footer. I also created a breadcrumb, the card, and card beta 2. So let's use the card beta 2. Inside the li, I'll add the card beta 2. So now let's define our UL. Let's say the collection is pulling in data from, I don't have any data source right now. Let's see, can I create a new data source? So dynamic data, let's just create a new one. I'll call it maybe books. And so it'll be, let's just say post query. The arguments will be post type will be, let's see, what did I know I created a new post type called, let's go to my meta box, post types, and it was called book review. So let's copy the slug and then I'll paste it there. It has to be since it's a string, I have to put them in quotation marks. Always remember, in dynamic data land, strings have quotation marks wrapping them. If it's an array, you have square brackets, and then if it is a number, then no string. Just put the value of the number directly. So this is, since it's a string, I put it in quotes. Then, so that's the post type. Then post, maybe status should be publish. Then what else? You can either put a comma if you want or not. A comma or a return character will inform Builderius that you are creating adding a new argument. So that's the type, the status, and I think that is all we need. Maybe we can add also a posts per page and say maybe like, what have I done? Posts per page and say maybe we want it to be 3. Then what are we trying to return? So I've defined the arguments for the query. What are we trying to return? We're trying to return a list of posts. So I'll write P into all posts, and then within the posts, what are the properties I want to return from each post? I want the post title. Then I think that's all I want. And maybe permalink. Fernando get. Okay, I need an image as well. So maybe the featured image. Within the featured image, the two things I need are the URL of the featured image and the alt text of the featured image. Then, with Builderius, if you want to add some parameters, so for example, the featured image right now, we're returning the full image. If I want to say, okay, I just want to return the medium size or the medium large size, I can add some parameters to the function. Because right now the featured image is like a function. If you want to add a parameter to it, all you do is just open regular brackets immediately after the name and before the curly brackets, and then it just tell you what are the properties you can get. The only property right now for featured image is size. And what type of size do we need? We need medium large. So I can also get data, and it's getting the data for me. So now I've created a loop. It is a loop because you can see that we have this square bracket and it is repeating those items. So it's repeating the first item in curly brackets, then a second item in curly brackets. So that's now a loop. So now that we have a loop, I can use that loop within my collection element. Oh, sorry, my face is covering the screen. I didn't realize that. So yeah, sorry about that. So we have the square bracket. Then it has curly brackets. So this is the first loop item, second loop item, third loop item. So now I can go back to my collection element. Then choose the data source. The moment there is a loop item within your dynamic data, Builderius will detect it and it will show up in your collection element dynamic data options once it detects a loop. So since it detected a loop and the loop was called posts, that's why you can see post query, which is under books, which is the variable I created called books. So that's the query. And it is returning our list of 3 items that we said we wanted. Now I can go ahead and delete this list item text, and I can start adding in the properties to the list. First, let me just go ahead and copy the CSS I added to the other element. I decided to just use local styling. I should have used a class. Ideally, you should be using classes, but sometimes you don't really want to be bothered with writing the class name. If you're going to be using it just once on the page, you might as well just use the local styling. It does basically the same thing. So I can just go ahead and paste. And we have our style again. Okay, so we have our 3 cards. We can now start attaching dynamic data to the components. So for the component, the title, I can add dynamic data and search for the post title. Then the description, okay, the heading level, I think I'll leave it as 3. The media, you can say featured image file URL, and the alt text is the featured image alt text. Then what else? Description, Okay, I didn't put an excerpt, so I'll go back and put an excerpt. What else? The link will be my CTA, no, my permalink. What happened? Permalink. Okay. And yeah, I can see maybe the heading, the wrapper tag will be an article. So we're almost there. The only thing left is the description. So I can come back to my dynamic tag. Let me save. Oh, hi. Thank you for joining in. Oh yeah, it doesn't matter with the build. Well, yeah, I should. I noticed that many people are doing content around Builderius yet, but I believe hopefully soon more people will be doing more content about Builderius. I think the whole thing happened because all of the different builders came up around the same time. You hear Mosaic Builder, we hear the Etch Builder, then there was the push for Cadence with the Page Builder Accessibility Summit that happened on the Page Builder Accessibility report that came out, which says Cadence is the better one. So there's also videos for Cadence, there's videos for Ollie theme and grade suits. So I think people their attention is now spread out across multiple page builders, so people are not having the time to check out Builderius as much, while Builderius is like the most powerful in terms of dynamic data. In terms of other things, I don't know, but in terms of dynamic data, I would say Builderius is the most powerful that I've seen in terms of page builders. But yeah, we can continue. So let's go back to and get our description. So for the description, that will be the excerpt. So that's the post excerpt. We can give them nicer names. So instead of post title, you can call it title. If you want to give it a nicer name, just before the field that you're returning, you can give it an alias. So I can say the first one is title, colon. Instead of permalink, I can call it URL, colon. Instead of featured image, I can call it maybe media, colon. And what else? Instead of post excerpt, I can say excerpt, colon. So I've given them nicer names. If you now do get data, it will also break, but you can now see that the names are now title, URL, media, and excerpt. So I can just go back and replace my dynamic data with these new names now. So instead of post underscore title, I can just say title, and that should give me the title. Instead of the featured image, let's just get it from the tag and say media. And now, since I named it media, I'll just search for media, alt text. And the last one, instead of permalink, is going to be called URL. Then the excerpt is called excerpt. So you see, and like I said, as long as it is a dynamic data, you can apply functions either directly in the input here or in your dynamic data section here. You can apply some functions. So let's say I want to do a function like limit words. I think it's called limit underscore words. Can't remember how it is created. Let's see if I can. I always forget how it is. Let's see. The docs limit words. So you can do limit words, then your text, and then how many the word count. Okay, so let's do that. So it's called limit words. Open the regular bracket and close the regular bracket, and then comma, and how many? Let's say 25 or 5. Okay, yeah, let's say 10 words. So if you're ever in doubt, you can either use the functions here. So we have the functions in the docs. Because they're using this Docusaurus, it's very easy to search for anything you're looking for. Just search, and it is very quick quick and easy to search. And yeah, so we have that. You can limit words. You can now add any kind of function that you want within the components. So let me save this. And let's go through the comments. Let me see. Let's go back in the comments. Yeah. Mosaic Builder seems to want to compete against Elementor in the deception category. Oh yeah, I haven't tried Mosaic Builder yet, so I don't know. I can't say anything about that. I noticed that deception is worse than what Elementor used to be. Okay. I think every builder is just trying to be, because every builder is trying to come up with this no-code solution. That is where we are having problems, because the more no-code you try to be, the more you have to cater for so many different kind of like possibilities. So you have to create deception to be able to cater for those possibilities. Whereas in the event that you're trying to be more like one-to-one, so that's giving people more like what do I call it, like more freedom. The more freedom you give people, the then you get that less deception, but you also now get the idea that some people will tell you, oh, it's becoming too hard to use. So it's balancing between the whole visual page building and coding. It's always that there's a thin line between the both of them. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, and there's PineGrow. Yeah, exactly. There's PineGrow. If you want to go ahead and do your own custom theme, I think you can use PineGrow. Lots of people are. I think PineGrow is the best option if you want to have that control and create your own theme, and then it's not tied down to any kind of page builder at all. Then you can go with the PineGrow way. Okay, yeah. Let's see. Okay. They are coming out with a new version, streamlined interface, looking amazing. Okay, oh nice, that's good. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's true about from what Builderius said. Lex also did a few videos about Builderius, so yeah, that's another content creator that has talked about Builderius. Yeah, so yeah. Then yeah. Oh yeah, what Max is saying, I agree. I don't know if it's due to the time being ripe, like AI helping developers. There is so much good stuff coming out. It's like a candy store. Yeah, I agree. Like AI has really sped up the process of building like tools. Most of the content, like literally most of the developers now they rely on AI in some form or fashion, either for like an assistant or so many things. And that AI is definitely speeding up the process of building like plugins and code snippets. I know lots of people use code snippets. The code snippets, most of them come from AI. You can even see sometimes if you look at the comments that are left, because AI likes to give you comments on all of your code. If you look at the comments, you can start to piece together that AI helped in writing these comments. But yeah, as long as it's working out well and is doing the right thing. So yeah, AI is really, really, really doing well for people. Yeah. We have more builders than clients. I, I accept. Yeah. Yeah, okay, that's something I forgot to mention about the Builderius. So once you've built, let me go back to the page. So once you're happy with your page, right now, let's say I'm happy with this page, it is working out well for me. Then what you now need to do is you go over to the Builderius icon and you go over to releases. Then you now create a new release, because right now what you have done is you have created everything in the development branch, which means that it is only you seeing that feature you've added, all of those contents you've added. You're the only one seeing it. The public is seeing something different. So if you want the public to now see it, you have to create a new release and then publish that release. So I can now go ahead and say create release, and I'll give it a version number because this is giving you version control. I can now say maybe 1.2, and the tag will be, let's say, new page, and I'll say created a new beta testing page. Okay, then we can go ahead, and if you don't want to add any of the templates within that release, you can go ahead and deactivate some of the templates. But in this case, let's say I want all of those templates in the release. Then I can say publish release and create this release. So now if you now go over to your site using another page builder, another browser like maybe Firefox, which is not logged in, then I can, let's see, what's the name of the page? Beta test. Let's view and then copy. Then I paste it in that. You can now see that it's the same view that the public are having is what I'm also having now, because I've created the release. Oh, thank you very much for joining in, Jimmy. Have a very great weekend, and we'll see you soon again. Yeah, so this is the page. Whenever you want to create a release, you want it to be seen to the public, you can create a release. But that's not the only function of the release. The release also allows you to what's it called? What's the word? To share your entire content with another, from one site to another site. But keep in mind that the content is only content created in Builderius. If it's a content created in the Gutenberg editor, that's not Builderius, so it will not port those over. But every content created with Builderius is stored and packaged within the release. So all you have to do is you can just go ahead and export the release. And once the release is exported, I can go to another site. So let's try it out. Let me see. I'll go to, which other site has Builderius here? Let's see if this has Builderius. I hope. I don't know if it's updated. We can now come to this site and you go under releases again. And this time you say you want to import a release. Let's see. I think that's the name. And it will import the release with everything. So with the version number, the description, everything has now been imported. If I want to publish a release here, I can just go ahead and publish the release. And let's see if that may not, let's see, we now go to our pages. And I think this should be the beta, yeah, to the beta test page has been added. Some things might not work because I don't have my dynamic data, but okay, yeah, most of the things worked. So the everything came up, the components, everything has been added, and you can see it showed up here as well. So everything works. So that's one thing about the Builderius. You can literally move from one site. As you can see, the first site is called build.instawp.co. The other one is called, oh no, okay, it's the same site. Sorry. I think did I move to the same site? Oh, interesting. Let's look for another site. No. I just realized I imported to the same site. Whose sites are these? I'm not even sure. Okay. Is this build? Okay, yeah, this is a Builderius site. Let's try it out and see if that works. It doesn't have some of the plugins, so some of the things will not work, but at least the pages should be imported, I think. Import release. So now we have our release. Let's go ahead and publish it, and then we also say we want to extract work on this release. Okay, so now if I go over to templates, you see I've imported all of the templates that I want. Yeah. So, and that's it. But like was mentioned in the chart, the dynamic data have to be the same on both sides. If the dynamic data is not the same, then it will not work, or at least those pages will not work. So let's go and see our beta test page has been imported. The new site is called undefined, whatever, unmatched. If I go over and preview it, the main things will work. The ones that I, what's it called? The static data will work, but all of the dynamic data content will not work because I have to make sure that that dynamic data is also present on the new site. So that's it. That's all you have to just know. If it's static data, it will work if you just import to the new site. But you can always go back to the page. Let's go ahead and edit the page. Oh no, let me make sure that everything is updated. I haven't updated Builderius yet, and I don't know if I've added the license key yet on this site, so I may not be able to use. Let's go to settings. Okay, no, so I haven't added the license key yet, so I will not be able to use the pro version properly on this site. But yeah, that's it for the Builderius release function. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's completely right. There is no, I didn't, I don't even have Metabox installed on this site, so it's not, it can't find those dynamic data. So yeah. I know. Well, don't worry. Next time, like I mentioned to you privately, I already prepared the cup of coffee in your kitchen. Just go to the kitchen, turn on the kettle, and you get your cup of coffee. You know. So yeah. So that's basically the main thing I wanted to show with Builderius. The other thing you might want to know is that let's go ahead and close all of these other sites. Let's see, all of these sites are not necessary. Okay, the other thing I wanted to know is that now you can also add shortcodes. So I don't know if I added the, okay, let's say I have jet form builder right now. I'll go to jet form builder and I've created a basic form. Okay, yeah, I've created a form. So if I want to like put the form into Builderius right now, there is no jet form builder like element for Builderius yet, but you can just use the shortcode. So I just go ahead and copy the shortcode. Then I'll go to a page. Let's go back to our beta test page. Edit with Builderius. And now if I go to the bottom, somewhere at the bottom, let's add a new section. So within that section, oh no, I added a container. Let's delete this. I want to add a section. Okay, yes. Within the section, I can now go ahead and add a shortcode element. It is no longer coming soon. Now it's available for pro version users. So click on shortcode and then just drop in your code. And it should work. What happened? Am I not on the latest version? Ideally, it should show. I don't know what happened. Okay, yes, now it's showing. I think maybe it was just cached. But yeah, you can see my form has been added. I haven't styled the form yet, so that's why it's looking broken, or at least looking weird. But you can see that the form is added directly into Builderius. And if I go to the front end, you can also see the form added successfully. So everything is added well. I can now go ahead and start styling it directly from here and say maybe, let's go to the, let's see, let's go to something like you can go over to your container and you can style the form. So let's go ahead and say I want to style the local. and I want to style the form within the local, or maybe, yeah, within the local, and you can just say maybe background color should be red. See, to style it, or pink or something, and so on. So you can add padding, and so you can basically style your form how you want directly in Builderius, and you get it. So you can and the preview will show up in the builder. I don't know if, let me now try out if dynamic shortcodes will also work here, because that's one plugin I'm always using on any site. So let me see, plugin, plugin deactivate, dynamic. Okay, yes, it's installed. So let's try. So I'll add another shortcode element, and let's see, DSH. Post title. Did it work? Okay, no, I have to put, it's just a shortcode. So let's say H2. Did it work? Not sure. Let's save and refresh just to be sure. Okay, so yeah. So it's working. Okay, it's working. So dynamic shortcodes works here as well. But I think it only, you have to reload the page. From what I can see here, you have to reload the page to see the output of the shortcode. So if I refresh, yeah, you have to reload the page to see the output of the shortcode. But yeah, that is it. So everything works. Oh yeah, okay. I missed. Thank for the chat. Thanks for mentioning it in the chat. I missed that. So I have to run the shortcode. I literally, I couldn't just see the see the option there. So run shortcode, and it will run the shortcode for us. Okay, so first you add the shortcode, then you run the shortcode, and it works. Okay. So yeah, and the for edge users to consider, Builderius is based on versioning. Edge users need to buy the highest tier or an add-on later to get the basic. Yeah, you see, yeah, that is one thing though. Yeah, Edge. That's one difference between Edge and Builderius. Builderius, I think Builderius tends to give a lot of the powerful features for free, whereas Edge tends to put it in their higher tiered licensing. But I think everything, I wouldn't say either one is bad. I think ideally I will agree. I will say people should buy the highest tier if you're going to be like an agency level developer. But if you're like a freelancer building your own site, then you can just buy the single license site, and that's it. Then yeah, I've seen the comments. Thank you all for the comments about clicking run. I literally, there is a big run button in front of me, but I didn't see it. Well, it happens. But yeah, so we have all of these options. You can add shortcodes, you can add components, and you can, like, let's see, how do we delete components? Can I just right click? How do we delete a component? Let's see. Edit component. Is there a delete button? So we are in the component. Let's see. Edit. Because I know one of the things that was mentioned, if anybody knows in the chat, because it mentioned that what's it called? Component deletion workflow. Add component removal system with usage detection. Allow deletion of components. Okay, so can anybody let us know how to delete a component? Okay, so go to the logo, and then component. Oh, okay. So I can see all of my components, and I can delete the component that I want to delete. The site header and site footer, those are default components, so you cannot delete them. But any other component, you can just click delete, and that gets rid of the components. So yeah, thank you for showing us. So same thing with, you can see all of your templates, all of your pages, and all of your components. If you click on the logo, and that will just give you the components. Yeah. Yeah. So that is that. Okay, and I can see some comments in the chat. I believe the Builderius team will answer those comments, because I'm not that that uh that knowledgeable about the. Okay, let's see. Okay, let me see if I want to delete a component. Let's say the card beta 2. So I'll delete. No, you know that I'm already working on the component, so that's why it is grayed out. Let's see another one like card beta, delete. So to tell me that this component is in use, can't delete components with component instances used in templates or pages. And it is used in the all archives template. So you can now go to that template, remove the component from that template, then you can delete the component. So that's a really good feature. So let's click on the all archives. Let's see. Okay, so the all archives is now open. And one nice, like I mentioned from the beginning, one nice thing about Builderius is that Builderius opens them in a new tab within the same page. So you can see I have my beta test page, then my component, and the all archives, all of them open in the same tab. So I can just switch between tabs. I don't have to open a new page, to edit anything. I can open everything within the same page and just switch between the items. When I'm done with it, I close that tab. So I think this is where the beta 1 component was used. Okay, so what's it called? Okay, beta. Let's go ahead and remove. And then we'll try again. So I'll save it. Then let me go back to let's close all of the card component and the other component and go back to my regular page. Okay, so I'm back to my regular page. I'll click on the logo again and now go back to my components, and you can see now I can delete the beta because the beta is no longer open. That's the beta 2 is no longer open, and the beta itself, I can click delete. It will run through the database and see that, okay, it's not used anywhere. Then if I want to delete it, you can now go ahead and confirm deletion. I don't want to delete it, so let's leave it. Or let's just delete it. I don't need it. And now the component is deleted. If I go back to my elements, and okay, I have to refresh this page. So it seems it doesn't go immediately. You have to refresh the page to get rid of it from the elements inserter. But now you can see it's no longer there in the elements inserter. We now have card beta 2, breadcrumb, site footer, site header, and that's it. That's all. Okay. Oh, okay. So, So they actually had the branches within the old Builderius where you can do like the GitHub, like a regular Git, where you create a pull request and then you merge the different portions together. But they said it was removed in this new version because it was getting too complicated for users. So now they just have a simpler branching system whereby you can create. Let's go back to the releases. Releases. So basically you can create multiple branches and you can switch between those branches, but each branch is like a self-contained branch. It's not like you can't merge two branches together. So you can just quickly switch. Let's say I want to go back to my 1.1 release. I can switch to that release. So it will load back everything. So including pages, any pages that were created, anything like that, everything will now be loaded back into this new release. Why is it taking so much time? maybe there were some. I know one of the releases I had issues, but I forgot to when I was testing. So I don't know if that was the release. It had some issues, so I was trying to work on it. I had to send it to the team to check for me. So let's refresh. I don't know what happened. It's taking longer than normal. Let's just go back to the last release, which is this one. Okay. Oh, interesting. Oh, yeah. Okay, that's another problem. Okay, I imported the same release into the page. I forgot. Let's delete that. That's why it says copy. Let's delete it. Okay. So let's say I want to go back to my 1.1 release. So I have my 1.1 release and so on. So now this one, if I go to my other browser now and I refresh, you see that that page is now basically empty because I have switched my release to an older version which did not have any information on that page. If I go back to the most recent release and I go ahead and I refresh my page on my older browser, the page now gets content. So that is something that to note in Builderius. You can switch between releases and each release is self-contained. So basically it has all of its information needed and you can just switch to that release and life goes on. So yeah, thank you all for watching today. If you have any other questions, let me know in the comments. We'll try to answer the questions. And otherwise, we can call it a day because basically this is the two features I wanted to show: the shortcodes and the components, to show that the Builderius components is a bit more powerful than I've seen in other page builders. It allows you to have that control over the props because the props are exposed to you, so you can use dynamic data on the props. You can use it with the if-else statement, so I didn't show that. You can also have that if the toggle switch. There is the text, there is a select field, we have a toggle field, then we have an image field and a URL field. They may add some other extra fields in the future, but those are the ones that we have now. And it gives you access to everything that is in the component. So from the HTML tag, you can put any HTML tag you want to each individual component's properties, and you can put dynamic data or dynamic conditions with the component props. So yeah, that is the main thing. Okay, so themes used to be they're just explaining how in the charts. If you see the charts, we just explanations about how the whole themes and the page builder are interrelated, because they have the static files and then the files in the database and how everything is mixed together. So yeah, I've been nice having all of you here. The last thing I'll just mention today is something that my friends and I are a bit worried about. Is one of our friends called Jonathan. If you see, his website is JonathanBlog1, and about a month ago, I think about October 10th or so, was the last time he sent a message to us. Usually we chat with each other on a regular basis, almost on a daily basis. But then after the 10th of October, all communication just cut off. Even when we sent him a message on the next day, the 11th, there was no response. About 3 weeks later, that was November, the first week of November, no response. You can't get him on a call or anything. So we're a bit worried. So that's why I say, okay, maybe we should talk about it publicly. Maybe he went on a hiatus or some kind of retreat. I don't know. But even a few of his closer friends, none of them have been able to reach him. So we are a bit worried. And he's the one who has been helping me out with a lot of the licensing that I have for plugins. So most of these plugins, he has licenses to the plugins, and I use his license for testing. So that's why we are quite close, or at least closer than normal. But yeah, thank you all so much for this afternoon. If you have any information about him or you are able to reach him, please let me know. You can send me a direct email or a message or anything, just so that we can like know that he's well and his daughter is okay and his family are doing well. So yeah. So thank you all so much. Thanks to the Builderius team for creating these new features, the new website and the documentation site. So if you want to go to the website, is builderius.io. You go under products and you can go to your account and you can get your license key and everything there. Otherwise, you can go to support. You can join the Facebook community. You can check the documentation. You can join their newsletter and so on. So I really like the site. The site looks nice. It looks simple and easy to navigate, and the documentation is quite like informative. So yeah, that's it. So thank you all, and I'll see you all next week. Bye.